Yaakov spent the final 17 years of his life in Egypt. As this week's Parsha Vaychi opens, he senses that his time in this world is drawing to a close, and he prepares to bless his children. Yet before turning to his own sons, he first chooses to bless Yosef's sons, his grandchildren who, though born and raised in Egypt, remain deeply connected to the family's spiritual legacy. As Yaakov begins the blessing, Yosef suddenly intervenes, seeing his father cross his hands, placing his right hand on the younger grandson Ephraim and his left on the older Manasseh. Yosef assumes his father has made a mistake. He tried to correct him, insisting that the right hand belongs on the firstborn. But the Torah tells us that Yaakov refused. He knew exactly what he was doing. Ephraim, though younger, would become greater, and Yaakov wanted to acknowledge that by placing his right hand upon him. This raises an interesting question. The Torah specifically uses the word Vaychi. He refused to describe Yaakov's reaction. What is the Torah trying to convey by choosing this particular word? The word Vaychi appears a few times in the Torah, and each time it carries significant emotional weight. The first instance is when the brothers bring Yosef's blood-stained cloak to Yaakov. Despite everyone's attempt to comfort him, he refuses to be consoled. He cannot and will not accept Yosef's supposed death, and he carries that grief for the entire 22 years that Yosef is gone. The second is in the story of Yosef and Potiphar's wife. Day after day, she attempts to seduce him, yet Yosef steadfastly refuses her advances. No matter how persistent she is, Yosef remains immovable. Another appearance comes when Israel requests passage through Edomite territory. Edom responds with a firm, unyielding refusal, blocking Israel's path and forcing them to take a long detour on their journey to the Promised Land. And of course, the word appears repeatedly in the narrative of Paro, who stubbornly refuses to let the children of Israel go, even temporarily, not even to worship God. Across all these cases, the pattern is unmistakable. Vaychi does not describe a simple no. It signals a forceful, deliberate, deeply rooted refusal, the stance of someone who will not be moved. It is not merely to decline, but to vehemently reject. If that is the meaning of Vaychi, then the question becomes even sharper. Why does Yaakov respond to Yosef with such intensity? Why does this moment call for a refusal of that magnitude? Perhaps Yaakov was concerned about the message this moment would send to Yosef. Honoring the firstborn simply because of the accident of birth order was not enough, and in fact, it had already caused deep pain within the family. Yaakov had lived through the consequences of this dynamic twice. First with Esav, with a struggle over the birthright tore the brothers apart, and later with his own sons, where his favoritism toward Yosef, the firstborn of his favorite late wife, fueled jealousy and conflict. By crossing his hands, Yaakov was teaching Yosef that the time had come to break that pattern, that honor should follow merit, character, and spiritual destiny, not birth order alone. But perhaps even more importantly, by blessing the boys together, at the same moment, Yaakov was sending another message, that even if one child's path leads to greater prominence, both are precious. Both have gifts to offer, and both have the capacity to inspire generations to come. Greatness does not diminish the other. Each has a place, a purpose, and a blessing that is uniquely theirs. Yaakov's reaction was so intense precisely to show Yosef just how vital this lesson had become. Shabbat Shalom.